Up and see if we are live. Let's see, checking in on my channel here. I should have a nameplate active. I click on it and it should be live. And I click on it and yeah, we're live. All right, cool. Give me a second here. I'm gonna grab my link and post it on the Twitters and the Discords and the Reddits. My mouse is a little choppy these days. I don't really understand why that is. But we're gonna get up and running here in a minute. It's Saturday morning, folks. Hey, it's my open design art stream day, where I basically work on whatever I want to work on. So yesterday we were working on hazard tokens for the Eberron adventure that we'll be publishing on DMsGuild, and so we've been building various little 1-inch tokens to indicate, you know, if you cross through this space, something bad happens to you. It's a hazard token. So we've been building them, but we've been trying to create them so they have a duplicatable, randomized look to them. So they don't just look like they're sitting in a square in a tiled format. So we've been going through this process for the past, this week actually, for the past like six or seven sessions. And we're getting pretty close to the end of it, which I'm really happy about. But here we're looking at the cover here. At Crystals of Mabar, it is an adventure for 4 to 5 characters, level 7 to 8, and it's in the Eberron campaign setting. It's in the nation of Carnath, in the Carnwood, in the continent of Corvair. And so once this goes live, you'll see this cover here and the mapping that we're working on right now. Here is the map that we're working on. And here are all the hazard tokens that are involved. And these water puddles that we have built into the map. Let's see. Hazard tokens, let's do that. And then the puddles, and then this actual map here. So these are all different layers that'll be provided as separate assets in the download folder with the adventure, so that you get this this terrain that then has the actual maps on it, and these will all be broken out into separate maps. Here's the top entrance area. You know, well, let's put everything back in. There, and there, and then. So this is the area that you walk into. If you go down into the sinkhole, here's a profile view of your proportions. Here's a grid map. Drop through the hole, and then here is the interior space. This is an unmarked buried grave that at one point is full of undead, and as they are animated by the necrotic forces of the plane of Mabar that's co-terminating with the region. Hey, Rel, it's good to see you, my guy. And as they animate, they crawl out of the hole. The environment is being destroyed by, when two planes co-terminate, they take on aspects of each other. So a normal forest in the Carnwood of Carnath, it suddenly has this manifest zone of undeath and necrotic energy overlay it, and all of the vegetation dies, and all the plants, all the critters run away if they aren't killed. Let it saturate long enough, it seeps into the soil, which is why everything looks like coffee filter grinds now. And anything that's dead in that environment will animate and become basically an undead creature. And to make it worse, there's a good chance that they're going to be sentient and independently. The first playtest that we did with this, it was, hey, we're at Carnath and fighting necromancers, and right off the bat, it's like, great, cleric necromancer. I'm like, okay. So they go into the manifest zone and they spend 24 hours in the place. After a long rest, he no longer has control over any of the undead he brought in with him. His horse was undead, and he brought in 4 legionnaires with him that were skeletons. I'm like, yeah, you can do that. And when they woke up, they were starting to move on their own and starting to raise weapons. They're like, oh, that was our first encounter. so that was, they had to fight their own undead. He's like, God damn it, I don't have any undead, do I? I'm like, sorry, man. It's like, oh, that's nasty. It's like, so that was really fun. What are we doing? Yeah, so we're building the map. We're going to do this for a couple hours this morning, and I've got some Spelljammer stuff that I need to do throughout the day. Kraken Week is a thing that's happening. amongst a number of video creators like ourselves that are in the D&D scene. Basically, it's about it's called Kraken Week, but it's about nautical adventures. I'm using the opportunity to make a giant space kraken attack the Rock of Brawl. And I'm going to provide all the statistics on how to do that. So that's what I'm going to be spending most of my day. But I wanted to make sure, you know, I got my reps in. So I wanted to get some video time in here to continue getting things built. So we have these replicating patterns of this moss. And it does it, although we can see that there's a grid pattern here, we did a decent job with this Vulpina Lotharia to be able to make it just not necessarily look like you don't see an obvious tic-tac-toe pattern, even though it's sitting inside of an obvious tic-tac-toe pattern. Same thing with the ferric vine here, although this one's misaligned a little bit because see, it's supposed to be up into the corner. That should align. Well, now I need to be a perfectionist to prove a point. Ferric Ivy, the partials, full. This is not where we're at. Hazard tokens here. I'm just gonna basically be fucking around a lot this morning. So we're going to mess around with these tokens to make sure that they are replicating properly. There's that one. This one can get pushed into the corner properly, and then I'm gonna go find where this one's coming from. And then we're going to start working on the other stuff. But the goal of our adventure today is to create tokens like this that can be replicated without obviously being tokens inside of squares. So it's it's good efforts. It's a good challenge. So I just want to this particular square here is bugging me, but of course I don't have them labeled, and I can't just there it is. That's just gonna have to be off then, I guess. Frazzle staff. That's okay. It's meeting up here, but at casual view, it looks like it lines up, so I can forgive myself that. Yeah, it's certainly not perfect. I could probably go in and bend it. I'd have to bend this that way and then that way. Bend this. It's probably not worth it. I think it probably lines up enough that it's fine. For the most part, it looks good. And it also kind of just like looks like it's going into the ground and then coming out. So that's not, it's not horrible. it'd be nice if those things just linked up properly, but I can't just go in and spot fix. It has to be a token. But at this level of elevation, it's pretty good. So I guess I can say at casual view, I'm trying to justify not doing the work right now. Can you sense the slack and the laziness inside of me? That is, All right, well, let's just get to work. This is probably fine. The point is that it sprawls out and it spills into different squares because I have different size tokens. So you go down here, you can see this is a token and then this is a token. And when they're adjacent to each other, they click into place and they just look like one solid flow. But it's actually cascading from one into the next. Same thing with the Vulpina Lotharia here. It's 3 different types of tiles that are spilling across into this landscape. So I have different levels of density. That isn't necessary. I mean, like a DM at his table is just going to grab some and just flick them down. Who gives a shit? But if you really want to get fancy and make it look good, you can like cascade them to lower density as they get further away from the stack. The Lotharia, if you walk through one of these squares, it forces you to make a Constitution saving throw, or you lose your action throwing up, just like the Stinking Cloud spell. So this is basically a static Stinking Cloud spell effect that the undead are immune to. But if you walk into it, you'll potentially throw up. The Ferric Ivy here is like Razor Vine. It does D6 damage anytime you cross through it, slashing damage. And then the rest of the tokens are basically just window dressing. They can be extracted for different alchemical uses. So that's all right. We had this weird ring that was happening here. That's not good. We really can't have that. So let's see. Lotharia is good. Oh, that's right. We're down in our test zone for the There we are, tests. Delete, delete, delete. There. So we have to get rid of this effect. Here. I could get rid of it by erasing, but what if instead I just lean into it a little bit? Like that. No, I was asking for more border presence so that it has less of a tic-tac-toe effect. This could be an easy way to do that. Let's let's double check on this. Test area, color, duplicate. How you doing today, Rel? What you got going on? I've always got a shitload of stuff on my plate, and it's nice to hear when people have an opportunity to rest. Hey, I can do a test area right down here. I don't need to do it way over there. Let's do that. I think we finally got it. I think we have finally got it. There's a big fat fly flying around inside here. I would very much like to smash it out of existence, but alas, earwax. No, we still have that. We have a swirly thing going on in the middle here. Man, I've got the Haganagas going on. My bad. Okay, let's go back in here. Let's peel open the color. So what I need to do now is get rid of this. Grab some of that. And then let's go back up into the black and white. That. Now we'll smear the color. So, I got into the game in 2019. I never got a chance to play, but I watched Suits and Lores. I want to know, if you do a session 0, what's number one thing I have to do as a DM or a player? Man, that is a great topic of conversation. Okay, so I'm a big advocate of session 0. When I run a campaign, I generally have a vague idea of what it is that I'm thinking about, like a genre perhaps. But I'm about to start up. I play Curse of Strahd every other Saturday in the evening. It's the one game I actually play in, and otherwise I DM for a weekly group, and then I do playtest adventuring. The stuff that I create, I playtest. So then I run it as a DM, run a shitload of people, and then ask if any of them DM themselves and if they're interested in running it and giving me feedback from there. And so, but the point I'm making here is that the one Curse of Strahd game I get to play in every other week. Sometimes we're missing people, So instead of, since it's every other week, it's really important to maintain momentum. So instead of canceling for the week, I volunteered to create an alternate campaign, like an in between session when people can't make it. So it's not really important. It'll hopefully be episodic, and and is just a gap filler for when we can't play the actual Strahd game. So that as my disclaimer. My intention when I go into the session 0 is to have only a very vague idea as a DM, what do I want to do? And in this instance, what I want to do is have them choose an organization of some sort that they're, as players, they're going to have control of this, like guild or business or country or whatever. And then the characters that they play are agents of that organization. And I literally do not care what that organization is, why they exist, and what roles these agents, the players are going to depict, would have in that organization. So my session 0 going in is basically like, what kind of a genre do you want to play? Do you want to play modern? Do you want to play fantasy? Do you want to play like some sort of off something? I prefer to stay in the adventuring category, not like horror or like dating sim or anything like that. I can already see that there's a star appearing in the middle here, and that's a problem. So I need to fix that next. So as a really well, as a very, I've been DMing for 26 years, so I'm really well practiced at it. So from my perspective, the way that I think about it is, don't have preconceptions about what it is that you're going to be playing, what kind of a campaign it's going to be. Let that stuff be emergent, and ideally it's a decision between you and the players. Like, hey, we could play a published adventure. Do you guys want to play a published adventure? Like Curse of Strahd is a published adventure. But it's been like since like 93 since I've done a published adventure. So no, that's not true. I DM'd the Sunless Citadel in 2000. In 2001, I think, for 3rd edition. No, it was 2003. That's right, in 2003. That was the, prior to Curse of Strahd, that was the last module, like pre-written adventure that I experienced at all. And that was just DMing. As a player, I think it's all the way back in the 90s. So almost all my campaigns are therefore homebrew, built around what is it that the players actually want to do. Do you want to be on a frontier town in the Wild West, and we'll have guns and all the Southwest fantasy adventuring, like vampires and giant scorpions and desert elementals, all that sort of stuff. Like that'll be a component of it if that's something that you're interested in. Or like my current team are playing dwarves, gnomes, and warforged in orbit around the planet of Eberron, collecting minerals and crystals from the asteroid belt that surrounds the planet. And so they're running an asteroid belt mining operation, and the players themselves are making the decisions for the guild, like on a guild turn is every 10 days. So every 10 days they decide what their like set of operations are going to be. And then one of those operations, they choose to insert themselves as a team of characters to resolve whatever that challenge is. Right now, they're depicting a team of fighter pilots that are chasing a 200-foot mimic through an asteroid field that keeps hiding and disappearing into them because it takes the shape of an asteroid. So they have to hunt it down because it wants to eat the minerals and the miners that are extracting platinum from a current rock that's come into their territory to mine. So they're trying to chase off this mimic without telling the miners there's a mimic, because if the miners find out that there's hostiles in their sector, they automatically stop working. They extract themselves so they don't get killed, and they have to have confirmation that the threat has been resolved. If the team can resolve the threat without revealing that there's, like, if they can resolve it before the miners know it happened, then they'll keep working and no one's the wiser. But if they fuck up, they're going to have a strike on their hand. And now they're going to have to build a team of diplomacy characters to go in and have a social dungeon experience where they're navigating pitfalls of logic, strawman fallacy, and undead that will be basically coming at them through these little channels of logic and conversation. We can build a social encounter as though it were a dungeon, and each room in the dungeon is a different point of contention in the negotiations, or a revealed issue, like a secret door opens up and you discover, oh, these guys are actually feeling threatened because there's a larger amount of warforged that are coming in that don't require as much money to live, obviously. So there's labor dispute issues. That's actually something that's like a backdoor issue that they didn't tell you about. You discovered that. So like you're kind of navigating through this dungeon space. Like these are the different types of adventures they can have based on the kind of challenges that brew up. So, and I'm really rambling here because I've got like basically a 2-hour block to ramble. So you open the door, buddy. I'm going to walk through it. If you put a dime in the machine, you're going to have to listen to the whole song. So in that sense, like I didn't, this was just had the idea, hey, we want to do Spelljammer. It's like what we could do. And they're like, we like Eberron, but we also want to do Spelljammer. What can you come up with? And so I came up with this asteroid thing. And now I want to do another campaign with a guild operation. But the point I'm making to you as a first-time DM is that you can play. There's like no end to different types of games that can be played. Knowing what your team likes or is interested in doing will help sustain the life of the campaign. Your biggest enemy as a DM or at a table is attrition, because you're going to lose people. You're going to lose their body because they're going to move. Like I've had teams for years. Some of my teams I had running with me for 8 years, and over the course of those 8 years, we swapped in many different people, and they all ended up being like the people that stuck ended up being really great people, because the kind of people we just ended up wanting to be around. I've talked about this before. My philosophy on gamers is that ultimately, and when you're in a fantasy world where you can do literally anything that you want, if the people on your team are still just trying to find ways to make the world they're in and the NPC characters that they encounter, knowing that they're completely fictional, if their main drive is still, what can we do to make this world better? We don't care what it is that we need to do. We just want to insert ourselves and make the world better. Those are the type of people that actually do that in their own life. And you want those kind of people to be around you. And you want to be able to prove that you can back each other up. D&D is role-playing games is a great opportunity for you to wear on your sleeve how you treat people in your own life. It's like the best advertisement for I'm worth being around I have ever experienced. So you let people do what they want to do, and you'll see what the game gravitates towards. Let's see. Other thing to keep an eye out for is what kind of a mix of combat versus exploration versus like social, and the way. And here's how D&D defines the social, that the 3 pillars of adventure differently than me. Go figure. I'm getting this square effect. That's not gonna work. Damn, this one's really challenging me. I like the tussle, but it's a pain in the ass. Maybe what I really need to do is rein in, because the ink pattern that's been replicating, that's been working fine. This is the one that's just giving me a lot of hassle. So maybe I just need to rein this stuff in, and maybe my life will be a bit easier. So the 3 pillars, the way that D&D defines the 3, the way that WotC defines the 3 pillars is combat, exploration, and social. Combat, you hit shit with weapons and you deplete hit points until they go away. In exploration, you make ability checks and discover information about the environment that you're in, or you're making ability checks or skill challenges to traverse the terrain. And if you fail, perhaps you take damage, or you incur some other resource loss. So that's exploration. Ability checks that deplete resources, and it doesn't necessarily have to be hit points. Combat is almost exclusively about high levels of action economy in an extrapolated duration of time to extract hit points from combatants that you're in a challenge with. exploration, navigate a space or discover or uncover secrets in one way or another. Find a secret door, search a room, aerial reconnaissance of a region, all that stuff. That's all discovering information. And then there's the social pillar, and the social pillar is basically interacting with other NPCs and characters in the game, and it gets, because that's not actually true. What I have discovered in time is that combat is what it is. Yes, you're extracting hit points from somebody. Exploration is anytime you're using ability checks to advance the plot, whether you're navigating a space, discovering a clue. But discovering those clues can be rifling through somebody's desk, or it can be strapping them to a chair and interrogating them, or engaging in witty repartee at a cocktail party. But if you have a goal of, I need to get into a conversation with the Duchess, and I need to make sure I get into a conversation with her about extracting copper mineral rights from the mountains that she's having issues with orcs. So that's my primary concern, and that isn't a social encounter, that's an exploration encounter. Because you're trying to navigate the space and you're utilizing your ability checks to get into a position where, like in this case, you're getting into a conversation with the Duchess. Social pillar, in all reality, in most role-playing games, is actually the shenanigans pillar, where that's just time. It's like wasted time. That's not advancing the story at all. It's just bullshits and giggles. That could either be Monty Python's yakety schmackety jokes at the table and referencing memes, or it can be character, like inter-character dialogue. Like, we're at a short rest. Before we complete the short rest, I want everyone to give me an idea of, like, what was your character's first time they were in a forest, and was it a good experience or not? Why? And then you go around the table and everyone talks about their forest experience. Like, if you're in a spider forest, right? And it's really spooky. For you to add mood to the spookiness of it, you can have your characters actively, like, spontaneously create a memory or a circumstance where they were scared in the woods or scared in general, and then that can lean into the spideriness of the forest at night. So but that's technically just the social pillar, because you're just engaging in dialogue. You're creating a narrative context for the die rolls to sit on top of. And you can lean into or out of that in character or out of character as much as you want. But if your team is highly tactical and sticking to the beats of moving through things like in an XCOM SWAT team style, they're only going to be engaging in the exploration and combat pillars, even though that could include interrogating or questioning people. So it's just a matter of what's the intent of that pillar at the table. How's your time as a team investing at a table? So that's a lot of philosophy that I'm throwing at you here real quick. But but I wanted to provide that context, because if you're going to build a game that people are going to want to continue to be at, they have to have buy-in on what it is. Like, what kind of environment do you want to be in, and what kind of characters do you want to depict in kind of that environment. That will get them locked in on taking ownership of the campaign. And so that will help them, if something needs to change, it will help them be partially responsible for making those changes, because you had their buy-in and input on the production of the campaign when it began. So if it's not what they like, they're making changes with you about the game, not holding you accountable for them not having fun. It's like, hey, you wanted to play a Western campaign. It's not my fault it's turning into fucking Blazing Saddles. If you want to go in a more Wild Wild West Will Smith direction with it, we can. We just need to shift the focus. Keep me updated on that. So the session 0, you actually have a session 0 at the beginning, every tier. Like level 1 to 4, and then before you start 5th level, another session 0. At level 10, session 0. Level 15, session 0. So every time you advance 4 levels, or 5 levels, 1 to 4, and then 5 to 9, and then 10 to 13, and then 14 to 17, and then cap it off for a 20 level campaign. So you want to have like 4 to 5 different session zeros to make sure as you're transitioning in power from one to the other, to make sure that what the campaign is doing is still fun for the team. So the session 0 buy-in, find out what kind of a game are we going to play and what kind of a role do the characters want to play inside of it. Don't plan your campaign more than 4 levels out, because it could collapse at any time. You don't need a large oversweeping world. You just need a general theme of like, what's the kind of campaign you guys want to be in, because you'll naturally be able to evolve into it. The way that I stack a campaign is from level 1 to 4. I've ran numerous campaigns where I don't have any combat at all for the first 4 levels. They're in a safe home environment, like their local village, and they're doing yakety schmackety stuff. They're getting to know the people in the area. Like one of them, we had like a Pokemon sort of campaign theme. So there were rival gangs. This is not quite right. Yeah, I got that star pattern going on again. I don't know if this is. It might not be possible for me to get rid of that, but I'm gonna try. This is the most difficult template I've like ever fucking built. There. So yeah, I ran more than one campaign. I think 2, maybe 3, where the first few levels there was no combat. The characters had time to get to know the environment they're in. They did a lot of investigation and discussions. There was lots of skill challenges, ways to engage them without necessarily losing hit points and being able to move through it quickly. First session is the first session is level 1. At the end of it, you're level 2. 2 sessions later, you're level 3. 3 sessions later, you're level 4. And you continue with 3 sessions per level. You'll get through, on a timer, you'll get through basically 50 episodes, and you go from level 1 to 20. So if your session is like, say, 3.5, 4 hours long, they're going to basically spend 12 hours per level. Once they get the 3rd level plus, they're going to spend 12 hours inside of that character. So they're going to have gradual progression. This is just how I do it. You could do XP, you could do milestones that they could stay, like that you don't allow side quests to accumulate milestones, for instance. So that's like when you would want to provide like magic items and character depth during those tangents. But and then whatever the way that I do it is, you decide the campaign, you decide the role that you play, what kind of characters do you want to depict. Whatever species and type of characters they choose, that is the social norm for the world. Then whatever type of a monster character, whatever it is, crazy crap they come up with, that is the most generic white bread cracker person you could ever imagine. Just like stock footage this nation or stock this world. If I want a Tabaxi and a Warforged and like a Neogi spider monster, right? If like those are, and then humans. Like if those are the 4 type of, that's the world that those characters live in, because you cannot allow the characters, you cannot allow characters that can't go into a town or can't be met with the same baseline of trust or suspicion that any human would have walking into a store where I look just like you, right? I grew up in your neighborhood. You don't know me specifically, but you'll look at me, you know what I am. If I came in and I had 8 limbs and I spat like I released smells as my sense of as my conversation, like I could not function. I couldn't go get a haircut. I couldn't go to TJ Maxx and buy some clothes. They're gonna chase me out of Whole Foods. I can't do it. So whatever it is that they choose, that has to be the baseline for the campaign. Unless the theme of the campaign specifically is we're outcasts trying to get by on our own in a world that hates us. Because that's, if your characters choose something that has that feeling in your world, you're basically saying, hey, let's run a murder hobo campaign where you're going to have to steal and kill for resources. And I'm not into that kind of a game. So maybe this one will work like this. So that's tip number 3. Number 1, you all decide together without the DM having much of an idea what kind of a game it is you're going to play. Step number 2, what role do the players want to play in that world? Step number 3, when you build your characters, whatever society it is that we create, your characters are super generic. I would like a loan from the bank, and they thank you for showing up with your money. Let's see. From there, obviously you want to make sure you know what your timing is each week, so people show up on time. I grant inspiration points for people that show up before the session starts, so they can if they show up early, if they bring food. I also grant a point of inspiration. Anyone that takes notes during the adventure gets inspiration, and then you just get a point of inspiration for just being here, whether it's early or not. So if you show up, get here early, bring food, and have a summary of last session, you'll get 4 inspiration points that session, which you can, of course, again, blow on any kind of die roll that you want, which means that, and then you can share them. So if you have a team of 4 people and everyone shows up every session, they can re-roll 16 die rolls, which means you can be abusive with your dice. I will tell you this, inspiration dice is get out of TPK for free. Like, inspiration dice is the best way to cheat your way out of having bad circumstances. And since you know that, you can also use inspiration dice to artificially push the difficulty of tasks. Because if you know that, like, if they really need to get this door open, you'll let them open it no matter what, but there might be bonus things there. So you always let them determine the die roll. Like, you want to open this lock. You never tell them what the difficulty is. You just have them roll the dice and then ask them if that's good enough. And if it's not, do you want to spend inspiration on it? But you can't dogpile a task. The first person, I always have them keep initiative throughout the entire adventure, so that during initiative, you do a group initiative. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And what are you doing? And whoever's task takes the longest, that's the amount of time that the team spends together doing their stuff. I want to search for secret doors. You don't find any. Oh, I want to search for secret doors. Okay, you can do that, but since we're all, I'm not going to give you the results of the first one until you all make your die rolls together. And then we can decide what all that stuff means. Because sometimes him looking for a secret door and you checking that bookshelf while you're looking in the desk, those 3 things could work together and end up exposing something or finding something or discovering something that the team wasn't really expecting. But you can take that group of roles and build a story out of it for that moment. So you want to move the team together. If everyone's just taking their turns casually, that's how you get dogpile. I search the door. I search for the door. I search for the door. Eventually, they're going to get it right. But if you dogpile like that, it's like, I'll give you advantage to help, but that's it. So what do the rest of you guys want to do? I do nothing. Okay, great. You do nothing. Do you want to do nothing for a full hour so that we can all get a short rest while you do that? Or do you want to keep moving forward? Somebody will sacrifice their turn for that short rest, for instance. So you can keep the whole group moving together and prevent a lot of this logjam dogpiling stuff. I'm almost happy with this. I think I want this to push in a little bit further. Almost there. Stay on target. Let's see. What else? What else about session 0? Is this all useful to you? Is this shit making sense? I'm trying to. I know I'm talking from a pretty high level because most of this stuff is just reflexive for me. But I'm trying to break it down into like little chunks of information that can be useful no matter like where you're at in your career of running games. So cool. Good, because I'm talking a lot more than just session 0 stuff. But what I'm hoping I'm doing is building a scaffold for you as the person that's effectively. I mean, people say that whatever it is that people say, the truth is that the DM is the manager. You're the one that's going to have to keep the peace. You're the one that's going to be making the judgments, the rules. If you don't show up, there is no game. So you are the most important person at the table. So what you want to do as the person that's building the story, performing all the maintenance for it, and providing a venue of entertainment for your friends, they owe it to you to make sure that you're operating, that they're operating within the boundaries that we are all setting together. So on that point, sure, yeah, if people have like arachnophobia, then knowing that kind of stuff is useful, and they don't have to share it publicly. They can provide you a little, a little card that tells you what they, problem areas that they have. But like I have some ground rules, like any kind of romantic relationship, anything that gets any physical, like any intimate physical contact is fade to black. You guys can go do that. I do not like depicting things in first person. I had a really weird experience when I was 13 playing D&D, where the DM was in the habit of narrating characters, like they would like speak from first person as that. And they kept flirting with somebody at the table. And they were saying they were doing it in character, but it kept going and it got really fucking creepy. And so when that happened, I permanently became somebody as a DM that always used third person narrative. Like sometimes I'll speak a sentence or two, like the way that person would say it, but for the most part, I speak from third person. So understanding what level of comfort people have in their narrative form. It doesn't have to be formalized, but it's worth addressing. Hey, as a DM, I always speak for the most part, I'm going to speak in third person because I don't want to be making eye contact with you as though I am actually this person. And it helps create this degree of separation where I don't become attached to the moment emotionally because of my engagement with you. I'm staying above the board and behind the screen and saying, yeah, this guy but if you stay in third person, it could be like, he's acting really squirrely. He says, I swear to you, I haven't seen anything in the last month. But when he says that to you, what you got on your intuition? 13? You can tell that he's hesitating when he says I. You think there may have been more people there than just himself, but he's not willing to admit it. What do you want to do? Like, that's how you can dive down into an investigation exploration mission. That's how a conversation can become a dungeon. Right? So, but if I operate out of third person, I can insert that thought process that goes on. Like when you're reading a novel, I'm the narrator. Like I can tell, you can see he's squirrely. He's trying to tell you that he was there for 30 minutes, he had a couple of drinks and he left. But you know that doesn't jive with the information that you already got from his girlfriend saying that he didn't get in for 3 hours. So you know that he's got a gap in there for you. Like that's something that you as a DM can narrate because it helps reinforce information they should have already known. It puts it in context and it leads them to the next thing because that was the question they had. And it barely even matters what the die roll is. The die is just going to tell you how deep into that information you're going to go. If you fail the die roll, it's like, yeah, he says he was there for 30 minutes, but you're not sure if you should trust him or not. If you had rolled a 22, I'd be talking about the girlfriend, the timing gaps, and you recall seeing a couple empty bottles in the trash can on your way out of her place when you left. And that's like a flashback mechanic that you can grant, like a die roll above 20, for instance. You can throw in extra tidbits that rewind back to remember when you were there. That takes a lot of sculpting on the DM's part, but if you're building a spontaneous story together, people should be able to help self-reinforce these facts and remember them together. So yeah, knowing what kind of a person you're talking in, I just set the rules that you do not have to speak in character. I will very rarely speak in character. This is why I have that level of that degree of separation from character personalities in my stories. And text. No flirt. Yeah, but I mean, hey, we were 13 and 14. You know, it was weird. So, because that's what 13 and 14-year-olds do. They do weird shit to figure out what's going on. How else are you supposed to know? This might actually work. This might actually be the one, Neo. So yeah, talking about third person, talking about your own comfort limits, like fade, like as soon as they lean in for the kiss, fade to black. Unless it's like a loving Frenchy kiss, like hi, how you doing? Anything intimate like that, immediate fade to black. Third person narration so that I can help make that fade to black a natural part of the narrative if it goes that way, or like all the things I was talking about, being able to seed information naturally into the narrative that you're providing, knowing the balance that they enjoy of combat versus exploration, and then if we're talking about social, the social pillar, that's their tolerance for shenanigans, right? Are you guys cool if you have a 4-hour session? Are you cool with the team going on a 20-minute giggle fest? Because this is exactly like that thing that happened in Red Dwarf season 2, when the cat met the dog. If you know, you know. But if your team is not okay with taking a 20-minute tangent to have just a fuck ton of laughter about that particular moment that you find, then you need to have a rule that says, yeah, we're going to curb that stuff, so that if we get too far offline, it's like, hey, we wanted to make sure that we limited our shenanigans. So next step, that helps you shepherd the game along. That's why I define these things differently. There is combat, which is going to take a ton of time and is highly tactical. There is exploration, which is fast. You can run I've ran entire adventures on nothing but ability checks, no combat. The combat were ability checks. It's just that they were all minions. So all you had to do was make an attack roll with whichever ability check and skill you wanted to roll. Since they only have 1 hit point, they would automatically be defeated by whatever creative solution that you came up with. So you can run entire campaigns on just ability checks and skill challenges. Hold on real quick. My air conditioner just did a thing. BRB. So knowing, like for example, a 4-man a combat round on the second tier with 4 people against, say, 6 creatures, that's going to take about 45 minutes for that encounter. And it might only take 3 rounds, but there's 5 humans that are trying to interact with each other, and it's going to be, say, 4 rounds of combat. 45 minutes, that means it's basically 10 minutes per round. If it is a highly tactical, engaged, involved combat, it can take 45 minutes. If it's fun, it's going to feel like 15 or 20. If it sucks, it's going to feel like 2 hours. So if you have a 4-hour game, you need to think about how often can I have combats and how large can those combats be. So if you have a team that wants to do a large, like literally it's a percentage. How much percent do you want to be of hard tactical combat? What percentage do you want to be of investigation and exploration and interrogation, and how much do you want to be bullshit and just yakety schmackety? That's the yakety schmackety is important because that's how you become friends. That's where the bonding happens, the emotional tie between your teammates. You have to have that social yakety schmackety. That's how you learn to trust each other, and then you demonstrate earning that trust through the actions you take while you're adventuring, and the sacrifices you're willing to make as a player into a character that really just doesn't matter. It's an opportunity for you to express, you can trust me, I believe in you, and you are my friend. That's every action you take in D&D can be saying that to somebody on your team at any given time, without having to spell it out and hug them. It's just demonstrative. That's a guy thing. You demonstrate that the masculine energy of the world is that you demonstrate your values by the acts that you perform. Sometimes it's words, but you have to act on the things that you say. I think that's good. I think that's a good pattern. I think we've finally fucking found a decent pattern. I think that's good. So I know this is a lot of like background radiation information as to like a session 0, but it's really about like how do you run a successful campaign? How do you build a campaign that's going to get people to the point where they will make it your priority to make sure they show up every time there's a game, because you're providing them with a level of emotional satisfaction that a video game isn't providing for them. Or going to the bar and getting drunk won't. Hey, do you mind if I bring beer? Great question. Is it? What kind of food do you guys want to have? These are all social stuff, and you don't need to know them necessarily during a session 0, but it will eventually come up, and it is useful to know. the triggers stuff, the narrative. Let's see. Let me see if I can think of any other good nuggets. I'm going to flip this now. Oof. Better. Here. Let's see. Oh, the duration of the campaign. How long do you expect it to run? Like I said, I don't recommend planning. Ooh, that's too symmetrical. I gotta rotate that. Ugh. And that's just the same as before. There. Nope, that's literally the same thing we just did. Let's just flip that horizontal and then give it another go. There. Not bad. Let's get rid of the grid. Tic-tac-toe. All over the place. Tickety-tackety-toe. The way I can do that is by pulling the clusters a little bit closer together. I thought I was done, but I was wrong. Sad. Sad, 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 sad. But this is what we're doing today. This is the whole purpose of the day, is to do this. This is what we're doing today. So, no regrets. There. Yeah, like I said, do a new session 0 every 4 levels. Don't plan your campaign more than 4 levels in advance. You can have a boss at level 4, at level 9, at level 13, and then level 20. Like those are good breaking points. 4, 9, 13. 17, 20, that's basically your breaking point. So you have, what was that, 4, 9, 13, 17 in the campaign, that sort of spot. So it starts off small. You don't need a big world map. You can know what world you're in, what nation you're in, and what the nearest city is. If you start in a city, you don't necessarily have to ever leave it, but cities are really difficult. Having a very small community with few numbers of people and simple problems is a good way to go. And then as the adventure expands, so does the reach of the characters. They just naturally start expanding their reach into the world, so you can expand the map with it. You keep it very, very simple because you don't know where the campaign is going to end up going. And if you don't plan more than 4 levels in advance, if there's a tone shift, it's not wasted time. What I want you to do is make sure you don't spend any more time than you want to spend creating the campaign. Because if you build something and you never get to it, you're either going to be really happy that you built it because you love building things, or you're going to become ungrateful for being a DM because so much of your prep time is wasted on stuff that doesn't end up getting used. So locking the team in on what they want to do each session so that you know what's going to come up next session, that's part of the session. You tell me what we're doing next so I can prepare for that, and we're sticking with that. Once it starts, you can throw them all over the place and be prepared for them to go, like, to do things that you don't expect, but keep the context of what they're doing to this particular task. And then you can plan, like, is this task so big that it needs to take more than one session? Or can we just make that a one-shot adventure performing this task? And then we just add in stuff that becomes additional context and stuff for the team to be able to interact with in future episodes. Hey, more text. Thank you for the advice. Another question I would like to have is, I don't like the lore of a monster or want to make a player race. How do I make good lore and or role-playing potential for them? If I don't like the lore of a monster, or want to make a player race. How do I make good lore? Okay, so like if you want to introduce a player character species that doesn't have a ton of information already published about it, is that basically the question? Like, we know what elves are, we know what dwarves are, we know what halflings are, but like, say you wanted to make a culture out of Thri-kreen, and there's not a lot of information about Thri-kreen, right? Like, is that what you're saying? Yeah. Okay. So use Star Trek. Star Trek, this gets a lot of bullshit these days from people being concerned about appropriation and stuff. But the way that Star Trek worked was create a monster, give it a human trait, and exaggerate that trait. Which is why dwarves are always dour, drunk, and Scottish, for instance. Is because it's an easy way to quick hand what that species is. You go with a trope, and then you create variations of it. This is not a bad practice. This is how you build archetypes. What was it? The second Kick-Ass 2. Remember that? I don't know if you saw the movies Kick-Ass and Kick-Ass 2. Kick-Ass 2 was the best ever because the villain was giving out these like horrible names, and like like one of them was like, dude, that's racist. It's like, it's not racist. It's an archetype. And like, it was just and it was so funny because it's true. Archetypes come from archetypes are heroic versions of stereotypes. They embody all the elements of what a particular culture is respected by other cultures for. You become these iconic heroes become what was the word? Emissaries for their culture. About this is who we're about, this is why you can respect us, and this is what we can add to your team, and how we can help expand your awareness of what can work in the world, and how we can solve problems, how we can solve problems together. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And honestly, not to get political, but if more people adopted that idea, I think a lot of people that get offended for other people, when perhaps those people might not be offended at all, I think it would help ease a lot of stress across the world. But that's what Star Trek did. They would put some weird something on somebody, like a fake nose or big ears, and then they would find a random trait that some sort of culture or is like a generic person, like being greedy. The Ferengi are greedy merchants. Like, to an extent, you can make any kind of stereotype you want out of that, but there are a ton of movies, TV shows, and books that had just a dangerously greedy, money-grubbing merchant sort, like the Mummy. The guide that spoke all the different languages and had all the different holy symbols. He was an ultra coward. He was also incredibly greedy. He was a greedy coward, an incredibly archetypal character, fucking hysterical. A great character. He did a lot for the story, and he ended up being he helped progress the story. Like when he was holding up all the different holy symbols, demonstrating how terrified he was, and he kept holding up different holy symbols and saying different prayers to try to scare the mummy away. When he got to the Jewish star, he's like, I know the slave language, because it was Imhotep. It was an ancient Egyptian god, right? He's like, I know this slave language, and he immediately adopted Benny as his sidekick, and now Benny became a thing in this story because he was a greedy, self-serving, cowardly merchant type character. So these archetypes exist, and you can project them like to different levels. Like, you can see somebody as a significant person if they can break out of their stereotype. Like, it's not wrong for you to depict orcs as barbaric, violent, archery horse raiders that are not Mongolian, but use the Mongolian style of horse horde lords, of breaking into different clans, of different riders that would cross species with each other, that would pillage, raid, and stock up on new slaves and breeding stock out of other cultures and societies. That's not saying there's like a dozen different cultures in the world that did that for hundreds or thousands of years. And for you to say orcs do that too, there's nothing wrong with that. Or that's what that's how I like gnolls to be. I have gnolls riding giant wolves, and they're basically Huns. They're archers on wolf back. So if you get too close to the wolf, they'll bite and drag you away, while their rider is still firing arrows at other things. So like super fucking dangerous. But I'm just stealing from another culture. Just here's a suggestion. Whatever trait you borrow from a culture, use the dressings, mannerisms, or language from a different culture. So you're not picking on that culture. So you're not picking on that culture. You're grabbing pieces of all cultures. So you can cheat your way into systems like that. Hopefully that makes sense. But if you get good at blending stuff, like here's a quick mental exercise. Let's blend Japanese feudal system with Scottish accents, dwarves, and what's one other thing? And they all worship a blood god, so they have to have blood sacrifices. So now you have a feudal Japan society with a Scottish mentality that has to go out and sacrifice blood to keep the mountain from crushing them, for instance. So you could build something interesting out of that. I'm not going to go through the mental exercise, but that would be like a random challenge. Like, what kind of a culture could you build for dwarves like that? So like Scotland have clans, right? So now they become feudal clans that have territories. One of them is the king, that's the daimyo, and they're having to make sacrifices. So like maybe it's like whichever noble house has the least success this year, their entire family is going to be sacrificed. And a new family from the rank of earls will elevate up and become a duke and take over that fief. So whoever performs the worst in your country ends up being sacrificed to the blood god, and their entire fiefdom is replaced by whoever their next best was. So that's allowing everything to continuously be pushed forward, so there's always the best are present. And there might be a rule about like some sort of way that the blood god shows that the current emperor is disapproved of. So that means that the emperor has to be sacrificed. And now it's a matter of which was the top fief of the nation beneath the emperor that will now become the new emperor. And that creates all sorts of really interesting political backstabbing, self-sabotage. Like, I know it's me and 3 other guys are going to be the worst. If I can burn that guy's crops down and not be held accountable for it, he's going to end up the worst because he's not going to be able to provide the produce that's necessary. So like you create a ton of scenarios like that. So just by borrowing off of these different cultures. So that's a way to do it. So, and you can fuck around with that. And so you generally want to start with like what's the sort of attitude you want your team to have when they're encountering these creatures. Are they trustworthy? Are they sagely? Are they fearless? Can they climb or get anywhere like a billy goat? Can they just literally get anywhere? Like you want to start off with like that base assumption, and then build a social political structure on top of it. You put a god layer on top of to show how you are going to depict their faith, and then think about what problems that those 3 things cause inside of their culture. Oh yeah, and then give them an accent if you want to use accents, or mannerisms that are appropriate for what they have. So this was. I am not getting away from this replicating pattern thing. It is fucking killing me. I'm starting to get impatient with the process, and that's not good. I appreciate the conversation because honestly, it's helping keep me sane. Because I could potentially be throwing my stylus at this point. It's frustrating. Let's put that grid back in place. So it's nice to be distracted, so that I don't have to be alone in my thoughts. Sometimes being an artist is by nature a lonely effort. You're spending time alone in isolation. It's nice to That's what I need to do. I need to follow my own principles and work on the star effect like that. This is probably what I was supposed to be doing the entire time. Push that to the corner. Push it out to the mid, corner, mid, 100%. Erase. Carve that down. Does that work? Does that make sense? Does that work? Does that make sense? I had a campaign where it was in 3rd edition. It was a 16th level campaign. We started characters at 16th level. One of the players wanted to be a Drider. It was a high enough. We were a high enough level that they could play a Drider, and we gestalted. So gestalt is when you have two character progression tracks in the same character. It's like you could be like a fighter and a wizard, and they both go up in levels together. So at 20th level, you're a 20th level fighter with the resources of a 20th level wizard. That's Gestalt. So in 3rd edition, they had the Savage Species book, which was take a monster out of the monster manual, and we'll show you how to convert it into a character class progression. So you could be a Hill Giant, the class, or Minotaur, the class, or Drider, the class. Drider are like centaur spiders that are cursed by Loth. They have like an effective character level of 14, I think. So 16th level, you can be 14 levels of Drider, like 2 levels of Fighter, and then 16 levels of Rogue, for instance. So that's the character they wanted to play. It's like, cool, you can be that character. So we had to build a culture where Drider were accepted. So being that we were maintaining the philosophy that Driders are abandoned and cursed as failing Loth, this is a culture of degenerate Drow that are outcast and banished by Loth, that found a way to survive by uniting with other sentient species, and they eventually were able to integrate themselves into that society. They were full of hate, but it was for Loth, not for their fellow citizens. So they were tolerated and in time accepted. So the society was built around. It was half dragons and then humans. Humans fit in fucking everywhere. So we only had 3 people in that campaign. So that was the base, the baseline for the campaign. So we just went with typical Drow stuff for the Driders, but they were abandoned, and they get hunted by various other species. So and they're not large in numbers. So it was like a conclave of like maybe 40 of them in this culture. But in the context of this culture, they were accepted. So a lot of it was a Planescape campaign. So you can be accepted at face value very easily in a Planescape campaign. What is going on? Come on, buttons. Copy, paste. Thank you. It's got that star effect going on again. Can I push that down? Where does that need to go? Where do I need to go here? This. That way, that way. So this needs to push in towards the middle. Let's see if this works. I'm gonna grab this here. Nudge it over here. Make sure we're still within our lines. There. And then color. I love talking about this stuff. Thanks for the opportunity. I love talking about this stuff. Thanks for the opportunity. Merge. Here. Oh, I like this better already. Oh, I like this better already. This might actually work. Oops. I don't know if I'm going to be able to avoid that star effect. Let's get rid of the grid. I don't know if I'm going to be able to avoid that star effect. Let's get rid of the grid. Okay, so what I need to do is get rid of... Which one's the original? There. I need to get rid of this. I like that. That feels pretty good. It's just this middle bit that I'm having a problem with. So let's go back to our lines and adjust that. Let's go back to our lines. No. That is not what I need to do. What I actually need to do is... Let's see what happens when we do that. I see text over here. Give me a second. I see text over here. Give me a second. Right on. Oh, good. Here's more conversation. When homebrewing stuff, when do I know the stuff I made is too strong or too weak? I'm thinking to make a player stat block for the Draconians are fun. I'm a big fan of Draconians. Keith Parker. Have you seen Keith Parkinson's painting of the Draconians in the snow? The title of the piece is "What Do You Mean We're Lost?" It is some of the best acrylic work I have ever seen. It is amazing. It's fucking amazing. Hold on. Anyone sticking around, like, subscribe, bell icon, notifications. New team members, thanks a lot. And here's the full playlist of all 270 episodes so far. But Keith Parkinson, Dragonlance, what do you mean we're lost? Oh my fucking god. This piece. This piece is so fucking good. This is low resolution, but like all the chain links he has in here are exquisite. The way that he has the snow stuck in the rivets, it's just it's so fucking good. Look at that. It's like he just brought the Skeksis from the Dark Crystal. It's like he brought those to life. It's just, God, look at that. This is acrylic. This is such a great painting. God, that's so good. This piece inspired me so much when I was in my teens. Oh, fucking A. Just wonderful work. He is an amazing artist. Keith Parkinson, man, what a god. And you can see, I mean, he's totally owning the title of the piece. What do you mean we're lost? Some fucking tracker you ended up being. So great. Oh my god. There he is, Parkinson. Bam. God, what a stud. What a fucking stud. Oh. So homebrew. Let's see. I want to give them barbarian style. Sure. Okay, so are we talking about? We're just talking about NPCs. Like these are antagonists, monsters to be killed. Yeah. Make sure I'm caught up on the conversation here. Oh, PC race? Okay. Well, I mean, obviously, you can use Dragonborn as your base template because they're already in the shape of a Draconian. Draconians, by lore, are color-coded based on the type of dragon egg that's been perverted. So you can borrow from the differences, the different types of dragons to decide like if they have a breath weapon or not, or like what kind of immunities they might have or resistances. If there's any kind of like movement speed that's characteristic of that dragon. That's a real easy. Oh, I've got that circular thing going on again, don't I? That's a real easy. Oh, I've got that circular. Bum ba dum bum ba dum ba dum. I use Epidemic Music subscription. Basically, as long as I'm subscribed, I can keep putting out videos that uses all the music that they have, and I have unlimited access to it. And this is one of the favorite songs that I have from that set. It's 11. I've got a half hour left. So God's willing, I'll be able to... Well, I could probably go for an hour. And I think I can afford to pull this in a bit. Okay, so what I could add a barbarian as a class feature is a limited resource. You have 2 of them per day, I believe, at first level, and I think it eventually becomes infinite. But I think before it's infinite, it stacks up to 6. So if you're going to have a rage feature, you can either have the same, like once per day, they can have a rage, so it stacks into it. You could have it that they can rage a number of times per day equal to their proficiency bonus -1. So it would hard set to once per day. At higher levels, you could take off the cap. So it's like you can rage as many times as you want, but it's going to cost you 2 hit dice when you do. So you can have a hit die tax to basically allow them to rage more often than usual, or as a kicker to the if you choose to be barbarian, you have the same number. Your barbarian, your frequency barbarians You could do so whenever you spend a hit die. As a barbarian, whenever you spend a hit die, you can rage again, and you can add, like, say, +1 to the bonus, to the rage bonus that you get when you're doing strength and damage and stuff. Like, that'd be a way that you can marry class to race while keeping them separate as well, and you can use any of that stuff together. So that would be sufficient. You could have rage cost a hit die, and so as they gain levels, it's more hit dice, and you could allow them, if you're going to use, I know Draconics typically don't have breath weapons, but if you did, you could allow extra use of breath weapon whenever they rage. Like, as part of the bonus action to rage, you can use a breath weapon, but again, it's going to use a hit die for you to do so. So that limits how many times they can do it. And if you're ever concerned about something being unbalanced, the best way to eyeball whether your thing is balanced or not is what you're doing something that another race can do? Is it something a first level character can do? And if they can, make sure you do it less. So, like, if it's something you could do, like proficiency per day, make it like once per day or once per rest, for like once per short rest, for instance. That's a good way to convert that stuff. Or if it's like another feature but used in a different way, like what would be an example? Like if something has if something has dark vision 60 feet, and you wanted to give them a scent that's so keen that they can they gain blind sense, then make sure it's not as far as the dark vision. Like if dark vision's 60 feet, then make the blind sense only 30. Like make the scent a 30-foot reach, and instead of you automatically finding where they're at, give advantage when you're trying to spot things that are hidden from view by scent. Like that'd be a way you could convert something that exists into another thing that's weaker. You don't automatically succeed. It has a shorter range, and it only modifies a die roll. It doesn't give you any kind of automatic successes. Like that's a way you can deconstruct a class feature into a racial feature. And similarly, you can build up racial features into class features, like a dragonkin's a dragonborn's breath weapon, for instance, could be part of a monk class, where you have like the dragon, the way of the dragon, for instance. They have it that whenever you spend a point of key, you use a breath weapon. There you go, pretty easy, you know. Like that already exists. That's a perfect example of that sort of shenanigan. So this might be our final iteration. Duplicate. Probably not. I won't get my hopes up. But this is definitely helping collapse time frames for me, because this is the stuff that we do on weekday mornings, Monday through Friday. We do Spelljammer stuff on Mondays and Thursday nights. I do martial power class design and alternate martial magic system on Tuesdays and Fridays at lunchtime. And Wednesday, sometimes I miss Wednesdays because my day job can get really, really busy. But most of the time I'm here on Wednesdays, and if I am, currently I've been designing Spelljammer subclasses. So one for each class. So that is what. And then Saturday I do whatever I want, and whatever I wanted today was more Eberron token stuff. Even though I'm going to be back tomorrow morning, I recognize that I need to put in the time to get the thing done. Oh, I think this is working out okay now. This thing. Get out of there, scallywag. This thing. Hold on. Okay. like that. That's like that. That's not bad. I accept that because it has like these little bare patches. They're along the. That's what I need to do. If I create a blind spot here, and then another one here. And then create a curve like that. Then like that. I think we got it. Merge. I think we've got it. I'll catch up with you in a second. Text. So, how do I know monsters are challenging enough? All CR does is tell you how much damage they deal and how much damage they can take, but PCs can do way more than just that. So how am I going to be sure my CR23 Kraken is challenging enough? Or Beholder is another example. Okay, you're talking about 10th to 20th level stuff, right? Is that what you're actually dealing with right now, or are we dealing with like low tier 1st to 9th level where you can actually kill characters and it matters? Because once you get into double digits, it doesn't matter anymore. All you're doing, okay, so that's why you want to break your campaign up into like 4 or 5 level chunks so that you can transition from one stage of the character's career to the next. At first level. 1st to 4th level, they are squishy as fuck, and you want to minimize combat and risk if your campaign is supposed to last more than 4 levels. That's why I minimize actual like meaningful combat. If there's going to be combat, it's like maybe 1 creature, maybe 2, and it's short and it's sweet and it's over, and it's more of a consequence or punctuation to an already existing ability check challenge that they're going through, but you keep the damages minimum. Here's a good general set of rules to follow. Know what your team can do. Find out what their armor class is, what their hit points are, what their attack bonus is under ideal circumstances, and how much damage they're typically going to do. You can use static damage. The monster manual provides you with how much damage a creature is supposed to provide, and then it gives you a die roll system to tell you what the actual range is. So use the average damage as the base damage. If it's a shitty hit, you can reduce the amount of damage. If it's a crit, you can increase the amount of damage that it does. But like if it says a creature will do 14 points of damage when it hits you, always make it 14 points. It could range from like 10 to 20. If they crit at 20 or have like a really shitty roll, you could drop it down to 10. So you have like that really like that wishy-washy range. But if you know how many hit points your team has, then you don't have to worry about, am I going to one-shot these dudes or not, because you know how much damage they can take. And so you should be able to build your encounters so that like the characters are probably going to hit it. And so that like 2 out of 3 times the monster is going to hit the characters. And there, this goes to here. That down. If you know what your team can do, you can kind of eyeball, is this too tough? Do I need to back off a little bit? If like say at 3rd level, right, your fighter has, let's say 36 hit points, your rogue has 16, and your wizard has 13. You don't want to hit, even though the fighter is a massive standout with 35 hit points, the rest of your team is in the teens. So that means that when you're throwing monsters at them, you want to keep your damage probably around 5 or 6 points of damage a pop. And so when if the mage gets caught out or the rogue gets caught out, they're not going to get one shot. And that also lets the fighter be a heroic fighter and tank a bunch of damage for the rest of the team while they do maneuvering and stuff. So, like 5 points of damage. If you get like 2 or 3 creatures on the fighter and they're going to hit the and their attack roll, like say his armor class is 16, right? So if on average if they're going to roll a 10 and you want them to hit maybe 2 out of 3 times, then the amount of the to hit bonus that they're going to need is going to be 2 out of 3 times. That's an armor class. That's going to be a result of 1 out of 3 on a 20-sided die is a 7. So 16, the armor class of the fighter, minus 7 is a plus 9 bonus. But where's the rest of your team at? Your wizard has a 15 armor class and your rogue has a 17 armor class. So the wizard's on the tail end of this, which is why you want to keep the damage like around 5. So because if the armor class is only 15, there is a 2 and 3 chance that there's a 3 and 4 chance that they're going to hit the mage anytime he gets in contact with them. There is a little less than a 50% chance for the rogue and about a 50% chance for the fighter to get hit. So like a plus 8. Like a plus 8 or 9 bonus is good because they're going to get hit a lot, but you can keep the damage low so they can take a lot of hits and none of them are going to just completely wreck them right away. And as you scale up in level, that damage is going to ramp as well. I also use automatic damage in a lot of not all my campaigns, but in my own, in all the, like when I do playtesting, I don't do this because I use rules as written for playtesting because that's playtesting. But in my home campaigns, I do automatic damage. There is a minimum damage that is going to be dealt to the characters just simply because the monsters are attacking. And I also do players roll all dice, so they're making defense rolls instead of me making attack rolls. The less dice as a DM I have to roll, the more time I'm spending thinking about the results of the trouble that they're in. But that's an advanced technique shit. If you're still and still learning how to DM, then playing by the rules is good. But at higher levels, you want to think about how can I cause damage. They have so many hit points. how can I always be scaring them? Because after a while, monsters aren't very scary because you can overpower them so easily. So I need to curve this here. I'll make an unusual shape out of this. That might be good. Let's see if this one pans out. Let's bring back in the grid. That's something that really is something you just kind of got to eyeball. But you need to know what your team can do. If your team on average is going to do 14 points of damage, and you want the combat to last 3 rounds, and so that means if you have 4 characters and they each can deal damage once, typically once per turn, and you want it to last 3 rounds, and they're going to miss maybe 1 out of 3 times, that means that you're going to need 3 rounds, 4 characters. One of them is going to miss every round, so that's 3 times 14. That's 42 times 3. There needs to be probably like around 100 to 150 hit points for a party of 4 dealing on average, like say 3rd level characters that are dealing on average, say 14 points of damage with a single attack each round. Then you probably need about 150 hit points with opponents that are each dealing probably like around 5 to 7 points of damage apiece, that the team can hit 2 out of 3 times, that are only going to hit the characters 1 out of 3 times. See how that's kind of working out? Yeah, it takes a little bit of finesse, but you have to start with knowing what the team is capable of doing. Like if a creature can one-shot the lowest hit points on your team, that creature's too strong. I would say however it happens, if the weakest person in your party can lose half or a third of their hit points in 1 round, that's decent damage. Because if they get hit hard, they're going to be like, shit, I can't get close. This thing hits too hard. And they're going to try to back away and be cautious, which is, god damn it. Got that star effect again. Oh, this is not turning out well for the Filbo. All right, we have 20 more minutes, so hopefully we can figure this out. How do we want to do this? I'm gonna go in here, like that. I'm gonna hollow this out here, like that. Let's hollow this out here, like that, and here. Here. Let's see if this works. I don't know why this one is such a challenge, but here we are. Text. What's up? Yeah, you know, it is what it is. This is why I get paid the big bucks, to create solutions that no one else can. Or no one else has yet. Same thing, I guess. Oh, I like this idea. Like Jack Burton, I can see things no one else can see, do things no one else can do. Who? Jack Burton. Me. Big Trouble Little China, man. What a great movie. Holy crap. That is a funny movie. It's, the machismo is so fun. It's ridiculous. Kurt Russell eats so much shit in that movie. It's so funny. All right, let's try this again. We're gonna keep at it until we get it right. That is my eternal struggle, my accursed fate. I might just have to be okay with those bits in the middle. Let's see how it sits. I wonder. I just got rid of that. Is there enough language here for this gap to be tolerated? Let's find out together. More text. I spy with my eye. Something beginning with T. Text. Well, I'm nitpicky. Final question, I guess. It doesn't have to be. How do I deal with potentially problematic spells like Wish or Orb of Invulnerability? Well, you don't have to until you do. Here's the thing about characters that are high enough level to have Wish. You can't stop them. There's a lot of the thing. Okay, so the way that I describe it is playing fetch with a dog. You can throw a stick, the dog will bring it back. The dog doesn't, sometimes the dog will just drop the ball or like the stick. Like the dog will drop a ball because you need to pick it up and throw it again. And it knows this and acknowledges that's a thing. But a stick, dogs will usually hold on to sticks. They will not let go of sticks. They will, they want you to wrestle with them. They want to feel you yanking on it in their mouth and tugging at it, and they want to fight with you. And they want to growl and have fun and wrestle with you like a little kid with their dad, because that's how dogs feel. And that is where that is their fun. That is their video game. Having dogs wrestle, trying to yank parts of a leg of a deer out of each other's mouth. That's fun. That's alpha activity for dogs to enjoy. And so players are the same way. They're going to do the MacGuffin. They're going to do the quest. They're going to fetch the stick. And they're going to have the thing, but they're going to want to tussle and wrestle for it, right? So as a DM, your job is to simply challenge them. Throw things up against them that's going to let them flex their muscles, use their skills, and be interesting. And hit them hard so that they can feel that there could be consequences here. All we have to do is just try. And so they will wrestle with it, and they will enjoy the fight. And once they're high enough level to be able to do that kind of stuff, dying isn't really the issue. They can come back from almost anything, including death. So you can knock them down, and even if they get TPK'd, if a long wind campaign gets built right, they may have resources built in place that they can even be fetched from the dead. So it just depends on how you build your campaign, but you have to build it over levels. If you just run a one shot at 16th level or a one shot 20th level, they're going to come at you with the most powerful, ridiculous builds, and it's not really going to be fun. It's just going to be play testing how the mechanics work on high-end stuff that they've never had access to play in a live game before. It's a different experience. If you're going to run a high level, I always recommend if you're going to level a high level campaign, start with a low level campaign. so that you build commitments and investment in the story. The problem with one-shots is there's no investment in the consequences of the story. When you say, I want to run a 20th level one-shot, what you're saying is, I want to run a 20th level murder hobo adventure. Because all they're going to do is fight shit and blow stuff up. That's why they want to play 20th level characters in a one-shot adventure. They want to play test. They want to tear a Maserati down the Autobahn. They want to scream into the wind at 250 miles an hour and try not to smash into a wall. They're murder hobos. I do not condone campaigns like that. For you to have any kind of emotional stakes in an adventure, it has to start low enough where they can be pushed around and bullied, so that when they gain power, they can put an end to the bullies and then start hunting down other bigger bullies. And if you build a campaign well, there'll be so many plot hooks that they can't resolve all of them. Whatever plot hooks don't get resolved become bigger problems until they decide this is a big enough problem that we now have to deal with it, and that becomes their next task to knock down. And once they're powerful enough to say, yeah, this is the bully that we want to eliminate next, because they'll have a whole cadre of people they have a vendetta against at some point. So once they get to that place where they can't be stopped, and they'll have a long list of people they hate. And you can just use that list of hate to combine resources, to unite against the common foe, which are the players, to respin these different things that the players hate into new combined experiences where, oh, this guy I hate and this guy I hate are getting together and using their minions together. That's a new type of battle. Cool. Now we get to punch Nazis and cultists. The little Nazi cultists. How could I not be ever more justified in killing a thing? That is a wonderful opportunity. How could I not be ever more? Not copy paste. I think this might actually be the last one that I need. Like there's a middle here, but it's not a circle, so it should be fine. And I do this pattern this way just to make sure that I can see any uncomfortable, unusual occurring patterns. Let's see if it works. So if they have these high-powered abilities, they're just going to use them to beat up whoever's next on their shit list. By the time you get to 13th level, the team is just knocking down vendettas. Like here's the amount of people that we've gotten grudges against over the past 12 levels. It's going to take us another 6-7 levels to clean up enough of these frayed strings that by the time we get to the 20th level, we'll have had a curved smooth of power and ass-kicking progression from level 1 all the way up through level 20 in that Injure campaign. So that's just structuring. Which is why you want to have it like a session 0 every 4 or 5 levels. God, look at that tic-tac-toe patterning. That's fucking horrible. God, I am utterly failing in this mission. The other ones I've managed to be able to build without having this blatant tic-tac-toe patterning. What is going on with this piece that's causing that to happen? Let's pull that. Let's check our heads real quick. Duplicate. Yeah, let's check our shit real quick, because here's the black and white. Right? Without any color. Is it the color? Is it the amount of shading that I'm doing that's causing all my problems? Because if that's the case, I've just wasted basically an hour. It's not wasted. I spent it with friends. It's never wasted time. That's your shenanigan tier, right? It's my inefficient activity during the shenanigan tier results in fun. That's your shenanigan tier, right? It's my inefficient activity during the shenanigan tier. Yeah, I can tell this one's actually okay. Okay, so it's the coloring that's causing the problems here. Let's go to here. Let's free transform. Flip that horizontal. And then we'll do. There's a sameness to it. There. Copy, paste. Here, let's rotate this way. I see text down in the corner. Here. Transform. Nice shooting text. All right, let's try this again. Oh, God. I make it so hard on myself. Copy, paste. What's up? Ah, thanks a lot, man. Yeah, I'll get it. I did the other two. So this one's just a matter of honestly, how much of a perfectionist am I willing to be? This is going to have that little star fold that I don't like. I go too far into any particular corner, it creates that burst effect. It's hard to avoid that burst effect. That might be good, he says for the 1000th time. And if this is good, then all I have to do is colorize just the mushrooms and keep the patchwork around it minimal. That would be my necessity. So copy, paste, drag down. And it's got that big old fucking hole in the middle of it again. So how do I avoid that? All right, one more time. Shanzui. Paste. Now we're starting to get into a territory where it doesn't look pre-built. The only thing I think I need to do is tilt this inward a little. Which one's my base? Tilt this away just a touch. If we transform and push it up, that might be what I need. Grab our grid. It's probably not supposed to. It would not be a problem if I wasn't being a perfectionist. This is 100% my own fault for trying to get to a place where I can have that cool replicating pattern. Transform. What is going on? Apparently I locked up. Yeah, I locked up. So I have to close this. I'm going to give myself 20 more minutes. Fuck you. My world. My rules. I went the wrong way. I think I'm okay with this. Let's confirm. Was that helpful at all? I was kind of talking from a pretty high level there. Because you were asking about Wish and Prismatic Orb and all the nasty shit that just immediately ends fights. By the time they're a high enough level to throw that sort of magic around, they should be able to win fights. All you're doing with them at that point is just wrestling with them, giving them the satisfaction of kicking the crap out of bad guys, punching Nazis in the face, until they run out of enemies to blat. That's basically what it comes down to. And if a campaign is built correctly, there's going to be more plot hooks than they can possibly ever actually resolve. Just pay attention to which ones which plot directions they're liking, and lean into those. It still has a tic-tac-toe-ness of it. That could just be because go to there. That feels good. I just need to reduce the margins here. Right down the line. I see all that text scrolling by. I'll check in with you in a sec. Let's just grab this one. I see all that text scrolling by. I'll check in with you in a sec. Oh, that's a lot of text. What's up? So I was told in order to get good narrating skills, you need to read often. Do you know other methods I could try as well? Oh, I missed it. Thank you. So I was told in order to get good narrative skills, you need to read often. I was a voracious reader when I was a kid. I would burn through a 350-page novel in a day, no problem. Like, give me 6 hours, that novel's gone. So I absolutely just consumed books. Shitloads of science fiction and fantasy narrative. So yeah, that was a massive source for me. I mean, honestly, in anything that's changed. The problem is that a lot of stuff these days doesn't have the same narrative quality that older content does. So I would say you probably want to go about consuming a lot of old content. The older it is, chances are it's like in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There's a lot of they'd figure out how filmography works, so they can start focusing on good scripting. There's a lot of cool fantasy, science fiction, adventure type films during that era that are worth your time. But narrating, I think I like this core. Let's just expand it out. I suspect we're going to be okay here. Creating these little zigzag lines. Did not anticipate that. Kind of like it. Ongoing stories are great. Older TV, like a lot of. It's a matter of like, what are you trying to get out of narration? Are you trying to learn how to string plot hooks together and like storylines, or is it more about character interaction? Because D&D, it's about the characters, and pulling from media is assuming a passive background, like a passive audience that's not going to be directly engaging the content. I think this works. Hold on. Nice. See the tic-tac-toe board. The tic-tac-toe board is completely destroyed now. Does not exist. It is that looks like maybe it's 2 squares next to each other, but it's actually 9. So this is a really great pattern. This is a really great pattern. We fucking found it. Oh, so happy. It took forever, but this is a really, really good tile. Holy shit. So happy. It took forever, but this is a All right. Where are you at? All right, now to fix the color. Did I lock up again? Holy shit, I locked up again. There's text. Message will be mapped. I think I'll ask it again. So it was. No, you're not annoying at all. Not at all. Never think that. You're doing great. I want to get in the skills to offer us enter into descriptions, locations, make monsters be more scary. That is going to require text because you don't know how to sequence. How to like if you're watching Aliens, you're not going to be able to oh, that's right, I had to save. I had to close this. Like if you were reading the novel Aliens versus watching the movie Aliens, you're going to see in far more graphic detail what the alien is, but you are not going to know how to describe it. You wouldn't even know where to start, right? You need to have written text because the way that we lay out sentences when we're communicating with each other directly like this is in the form of sentences. So yeah, reading books, even comic books are going to lead you away. Novels is by far, or screenplays, is going to be the, novels are the best though. Novels are the absolute best way for you to be able to learn how to describe something. I don't know of a way around that. I wish I did, because then I'd be able to provide you better insight. Alas, earwax, I do not. And for the illusion to work, I have to minimize the color, so I can't have this large sprawling effect. I need to keep it tight into the footprint of the actual mushrooms. Oh, audiobooks. God, audiobooks. Listen to fantasy, listen to Conan on audiobooks. I'm a huge fan of Jack L. Chalker. John Heinlein, who did Starship Troopers, he's got really great narrative. All the Eberron novels, anything from Warhammer 40K, absolutely, because they're just talking to you. That is a great replacement for reading. I can't believe I didn't think of that just like off the fucking cuff. Sorry, I didn't have my problem-solving hat on apparently, or it was on the wrong face. Yeah, just start. Have you read the Dresden Chronicles? Yeah, just start. Have you read the Dresden Chronicles? Fucking get on that. It's narrated by James Marsters, the guy that played. I don't know if you know this reference, but He played Spike from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He is an excellent narrator, and Dresden is urban fantasy. He lives in Chicago. He's a wizard, and he solves crimes, supernatural crimes like fighting vampires, werewolves. He was fucking around with Wendigo for a while. At one point, he's hunting Bigfoot, demons, poltergeists, and it's all. And he deals like he has a pixie informant that he feeds Little Caesars pizza because they fucking love cheese. So he'll bribe them with pizzas to get information from the Feywild from them. But it's all in an urban setting. It's a great series. It is a great series, and the descriptions are fantastic. Eberron novels are okay. I've listened to half of one. It's a decent place to start. Spelljammer novels from the 90s were fucking awesome. All the Forgotten Realms books, Dragonlance novels are fantastic. I mean, if you're going to do if you're going to do Draconians, then you should really read or listen to as many of the Dragonlance novels as you can bear to stomach. I think I've read like maybe 10 of them. That is, yeah, 100%. Just, and you can honestly, you can find a lot of these on YouTube or other channels, but it's like $5 a month, I think, for the basic plan. And just Conan, like get into Conan. Any kind of science and fantasy that can catch your attention. Cyberpunk stuff. Because they're creating fantasy worlds through sentence structure. Oops, shit, I'm on the wrong layer. There. I can't believe I didn't think of that. That's so funny, you've got me cackling. D4 psychic damage, sucker. I did not want to walk away from this mission unsuccessful today. So I'm glad I decided to invest the extra time to be here. Hopefully I answered your question right this time. A book from my country. Not sure it has an English translation. Huh. I read Fram. A book from. Huh. I feel like I missed text. Right on. Yep. Novels. 100%. This could just as easily be a forest, like a very far overhead shot of a forest. Very, very easily. Nice. There it is. I'm content with this. Finally, I have attained contentment. It's about time. Finally, I have attained contentment. All right, final test. Oh, yep. All right, final test. Yep. This is simple, Pina. This is emerald caps. Let's call them shrooms. I'm only doing small patches of them. 1, 2 there. We'll do 1. 2 here. Here. 1, 2. 1, 2. 3 here. A lot of work for not a lot of visual impact, huh? I'm proud. And then we're going to go down here and we will make sure our shit's between the lines. Thank you. And now we can take this one. And as soon as I finish tiling with these, I will cut for the day. I think you tell me the timer. All right, we are now at end stage. So I'm going to be spending the rest of my day making that Star Kaiju Mega Kaiju video. It should, if everything, God bless me, if everything goes well today, it'll be live on the Kraken Week playlist that Pointy Hat, Jenny D, and others are putting together. So I will. Technically, I have until Friday to get it posted, but it's going to be hyped throughout the week. So the earlier I can get it done, the sooner I can be part of the excitement. So God bless. I hope that I'm going to be able to get everything built today. It's a sprawling subject. I'm building a kaiju out of mechanics that hardly anybody knows. It's like there's going to be like a lot of, you got to trust me on this. Look at page 28. I provide you a bibliograph or a glossary and an index of all the pages that I use from my Spelljammer book to build this thing. It's like, you may not intuitively see this, but here's what you can do, because I want to build a kaiju book using these mechanics, and they fucking work. It's just I got to organize them, extract and organize them in a way that's it's going to make sense. Should be fine. go. And my system just locked up. I want to drop in a token here, and then we'll be done. That's my logo. That's not what I intended to press. There. Oop, I can do one more. Perfect. There you go. Some mushroom caps. There you go. Mushroom caps. And so when we come back, we'll be back on Monday. And when we do, we're going to work on Plague Moss. All right, that's it for now. Let me just wrap up with you, see if there's any wandering things. These skills and there's any descriptions. Excellent. Yeah. Books will definitely do that. 100%. Thank you. How do I make wilderness exploration and survival challenges a thing that matters, especially with spells like Fly and the fact that the game doesn't give a solid enough body of rules for it? Well, what does that body of rules actually need to be? Are you trying to make it? There's three prongs when you're talking about overland or time, like consuming volumes of time. There's descriptive interest, there's mechanical relevance, and there's procedural. And then there's process or procedure of activities, right? So the description is how do you make it interesting? How do you make days of wandering around interesting? The next thing is how do you make it relevant? How do you put encounters in the way, have hazards there, do things that make it engaging? And then the last piece is what process do you need to follow to make sure that you're gamifying the experience so it feels like it's just a natural part of the game that you're playing. Description is just description stuff. You gotta get decent about describing different types of terrain, the monsters that are in it, atmospheric conditions, weather, whatever is relevant. There's also a sense of scale. Okay, so when you're doing overland stuff, decide first how much of your encounter day, like how much of your adventure is actually being consumed by the adventure, it's like by the travel time. If you want to get from city A, like if you're in city A, you want an encounter there that then triggers you wanting to go to city B, and then you have to traverse space in between. It gets down to there could be an encounter in A, an encounter in B, and you're done. You skip over the overland travel in between, and it's just you leave the city for a few days later, you get there, and now this happens, and then you have that encounter, and that's a 2-encounter day. So how many encounters of any kind of substance do you need during the course of an adventure, like a day at the table? Do you have 6 encounters? Do you pace at 4 encounters or 8, which is what's recommended by the dungeon? Like a 5-hour session would have 8 encounters. Maybe like 4 or 5 of them are short 2 or 3 round combats. Maybe there's a boss somewhere inside of there, and then the other 3 or 4 things that you do is probably gonna be like 2 or 3 of them. In my world, like 2 or 3 of them. Well, I only have really exploration and combat, so I would divide the remaining 5 like 2 environmental and 3 creature encounters. So over the course of a 5-hour block of adventuring, we'd have 2 exploration conversations. We'd have 2 or 3, and then we'd have 2 or 3 like physical obstacle challenges, and then like maybe 3 or 4 combats, right? And so it would be, first off, we're already like 4 things in, so it's not first off. So you do want to know how many encounters can you pace per day at the table, and is what is happening currently so important that it's going to take an entire session to do that specifically, or is it 1 encounter in town A and then another encounter in town B, and then you've got like 3 or 4 more encounters you can do throughout the day, but you've done everything you need to do between A and B. If you want to zoom in and grind that down, if you really only have 1 encounter in A and 1 encounter in B, and you can tolerate, say, 6 meaningful encounters where people are throwing around dice and making decisions about stuff. If you can have 6 of those per day, then you could theoretically feed in 4 more between City A and City B. So of those 4, maybe 2 of them are encountering random creatures. 1 of them is going to be some sort of a physical obstacle, and the other one could be a social encounter. But most combat, if it's with intelligent creatures, could be social encounter. It could be like, engaging in conversation type stuff as well. So you have that degree of how much stuff do I need to do, how many of these things that need to be done are at specific locations, and everything in between those locations that the team has to get to is filler space. So if they have the means of being able to skip over 20 miles of traveling through forest to get to the destination because they have fly speed, you either want to put a flying challenge or an aerial challenge into the mix of some way, either a harsh weather condition or a creature perhaps. Keep in mind, if you're flying, you are exposed to all high CR creatures in the world that can fly as well. Mortals stay on the ground close to the foliage and overhangs in buildings so that wyverns don't come by and snatch you off the street. So if you're just flying between locations and it is not tamed space, you are risking being attacked by griffins, wyverns, manticore, dragons, hippocampus, giant eagles, pixies, elementals, and other adventurers or sky pirates even. So there's a lot of different physical challenge combat that can occur going from location A to location B. But if you're going to have, say, 6 encounters per day, you've got A and B, you know there's an encounter in A, and you know there's an encounter in B, and they don't have the means of just skipping over it. Because if they can just skip over it, you might be able to have 1 challenge in between, maybe a weather challenge and a combat challenge. That's 4. You now need to fill in those other 2. That probably like something. You're going to have to buff out additional challenges in the towns, either before they leave or once they get there, they're going to deal with some bullshit before they actually get to what they want to do. And then you can break down what you're actually supposed to be doing into like 2 or 3 segments. So once you pace the number of encounters, let's say they aren't a high enough level to just flat out avoid it. Then if you're going to have like 6 per day, you're going to have, let's say a 1-day trek, like a 1-day event, like a 1-day journey between A and B is going to be like 1 encounter, because the amount of frequency of traffic between those locations is naturally going to make it a safe place to be. This starts diving into socioeconomics and geopolitics. Like if you have 2 cities that are only 1 horse ride away from each other, there's going to be farmland butting up against each other along city-province lines, and they're all going to be patrolled by rangers and outriders. And there's going to be a low chance of monsters unless you're at the edge of the communities where the frontier starts, and that's where there might be like maybe once a month they're going to run across something that could be suspicious that's within a day of your community. Because if it's more hostile than that, I ain't going farming. I'm going to fucking run away. So at best you can have an encounter, a dangerous encounter that's within 1 day's distance of the farthest outlying homestead in your communities. Anything that's more frequent than a month of like having like maybe a 25% chance of actually getting to your home while you're asleep. If it's more frequent than that, like maybe once out of a month, there might be some sort of potential problem. Actual problems like maybe once every 6 months. If it's more frequent than that, I'm not raising kids there. I'm leaving because it's too dangerous. They'll kill me in my sleep, whatever it is. So you have to think about how hostile is the area, which means that you need to have a lot of space between the points of light, as 4th edition called it, to make sure that there's enough wilderness between your destinations that it's actually wild. So if they're aerial and they can skip all that, then you skip all of that. You pace the campaign to meet the capabilities of your characters. Like wrestling with the stick, with final bosses in late stage campaigns, they're just knocking stuff down. Once they've knocked down travel, it's no longer about travel. It's about getting to the destination and leading them to different points. Leading them from adventure and plot point to different plot point, whether it's at the same location that they're at right now, or they have to go across the multiverse to get there. If all they have to do is snap their fingers and they can do it, then the next plot point is now. They skip to the next place, and now they got to find it. You can always add in environmental stuff because they could get to the next town, but it doesn't mean they know where the next where the house is that they're looking for. Or they get to the house. Turns out that this safe house that you were supposed to be going to got pillaged. So they've gone someplace and you don't know if they've left any clues as to where they went. Maybe there's sigils or something that they might be trying to leave you a message about where they went. Now it becomes an exploration challenge of you finding where your destination has actually moved to. So think about it in that sort of a frame. You're not necessarily like a dungeon. You're trying to get to a place, but if you're trying to get to somebody at a location, if that somebody moves, that location becomes a travel point, a set anchor point in your travel to go from location A to B. Sorry, they're actually at C. B became a point of adventure. Why aren't they here? Oh crap, because there's trolls here. Let's fight some trolls. Looks like they've been looting the place. There might be clues in those sacks. We got to kill these trolls so we can get their sack of goods to find out if there's a clue in there for us. Kill the trolls, find the clue. Got to go to point C. Now, well, C's a hell of a lot farther away than A was. Now you can seed in a couple different wilderness challenges because they're going to have to make that travel distance. Is that making sense? Like if your team is capable of ignoring an aspect of the game, you ignore that aspect of the game. Like Path of Exile, for example. It's an action RPG kind of like Diablo, right? It's grinding gears games is amazing. There was a macro that got a third-party macro that got built that whenever a certain condition hits, this potion will activate. And that potion will give me invulnerability for 1 second. Or this potion will heal 50% of my hit points. Or this potion will make me move 3 times faster than my normal running speed is. And so they build these little circumstance triggers. When my hit points get down below this point, my speed triples. When my hit points drop below this point, my healing kicks in. If my healing drops down below this point, invulnerability kicks in. This was a third-party hack, but it became so popular that grinding gear games just coded that hack. They made it a part of the game. So you can now take potions and you can put crystals on them. And you can set when that crystal triggers to make the potion pop. So it was so popular they made it a feature. So if traveling from city A to city B becomes so trivial because of the level of power that your characters have, make that a feature of your campaign. You no longer have to waste time inside of the forest fucking around from point A to point B because you can just fly over that stuff. Your characters with that level of power are dealing with bigger issues than whether or not a goblin's going to try to steal your dinner while you're sleeping in the forest. You've got bigger fucking problems, so you ignore all that stuff by literally flying over it. It's not an issue of Overland isn't challenging or it's difficult to describe. Is it even relevant to the power of your characters anymore? Because it doesn't matter what plane of existence they go to, once they can start flitting around inside of that space, it's more about the destination than the journey. But literally, not figuratively. Figuratively, each location they visit is another breadcrumb that leads to the boss eventually that you need to defeat to spring out into more decisions about how you want to go about doing that. But this is sequencing decision making. I think I actually have a video about that on my video list about seeding adventures hooks and how to create different threads of plot lines and then how to tie them back together again. It's maybe like 20 minutes. It's worth listening to. But yeah, I'm happy. I'm going to be back on Monday. If you show up on Monday, either in the morning or evening, I'm happy to dive into this topic deeper. But you really got to think about, is this relevant anymore? Instead of trying to force high-level characters into low-level tasks, that are a waste of their time, that they're easy, that they barely have to spend any resources resolving, you should expand the scope of the campaign to meet the breadth of abilities that the characters have, so that they feel that transition by the way that the narrative of the adventure changes from one tier to the next. By the time you're level 1 to 5, overland stuff is fun. They don't have a lot of hit points. It's a great challenge. Dungeons are the same way. By the time you get to level 9, you're pretty much at the end of doing overland adventuring, and you're not just going into a dungeon to fuck around with stuff. If there's a dungeon that can possibly stand against you, it's there for a very specific reason, and you have very specific tasks to perform there. So it's not about exploring the dungeon, it's about getting into the dungeon and achieving your goals and getting out alive against higher CR threats that are defending. And then you get to a point where I can be anywhere, anytime I want, so all of my destinations are who I'm trying to influence by negotiating or killing them, basically. So you're either making friends, making people run away, or you're killing them. That's basically the three-pronged solution that high-level characters have. And then it just becomes, where are you at right now? And the confrontation might have environmental challenges, but that's just a part of good encounter construction. But as it goes on, the need to pay attention to getting from point A to point B becomes it becomes so trivial that just teleportation with a snap of a finger and you're already there. So you need to prepare yourself to be able to have your plot points as a line. Like you create a path of plot points. And if that path happens to coincide with the road that goes between two locations, awesome. Just keep dropping in your plot points along that road. But once that road disintegrates and the plot point leads you from A to B to C to D to E, and that's 5 different planes of existence, you're probably 15th level characters at that point. And you should be hopping from one dimension to another, or a nation to another, or reality to another to deal with problems and take care of that problem, and then you blip off and you teleport to another location to take care of that. Does that make sense? In order to be a good DM, you have to work with the players, not against them. Absolutely. You have to adapt to them. Yes, 100% to what they can do, so you have to make your adventure. Yes. And the lower level you start the characters at, the more emotionally committed they're going to be to the things that they start achieving at higher levels, which is why you want to break your campaign into 4 or 5 level chunks, so that you have the chance to gain some power, knock out the local bully, and that local bully was being funded by other organizations, or other things crop up that are of a larger scale. So then as you transition into the next phase of the campaign, you do your session 0 again to make sure you know what the team is interested in. Hey, who out there that you know about right now is the biggest problem on your radar that you want to deal with? Start crafting your stuff around that challenge that you want to deal with. Have a couple other side pieces going on in that plot threading I was talking about. So if they take out this plot too easily, you can bring in either one of the others to augment or replace it as the next step. And you'll just keep laying down new plot points that pull the team in the direction that they've indicated they want to go in. And then you give them multiple decisions to be able to choose how do they get there through the different negotiations, bullying, or combat that they interact with during the course of that game flow. So you want to think about it as a story flow of them always succeeding, and when they succeed they move to the next plot point, whether that's physically moving there, or like if you're like doing an exorcism adventure where the whole encounter takes place in a little girl's bedroom and you're negotiating with demons, you're astrally projecting into her spirit space to fight the demons directly inside of her with psychic and force damage. You're exploring her heart to find where the demons are hiding, and then you're able to extract them out into reality to do a skill challenge to trap them. You could have 4 or 5 encounters that are exploring inner spaces of this person's psyche as an exorcism adventure without ever leaving the bedroom. It all takes place in that space, but it's like this astral dream space that you're exploring instead. You're creating space inside of that. But the narrative beat is you're killing a demon. You're extracting a demon. At 3rd, 4th level, that's like some intense shit. But by the time you're 16th level, it's like, yeah, you just brush your hand across somebody and like all the demons just melt out of their heart and they're saved. You know, there you go. But now you're dealing with archdemons that are sending out these legions to infect children, for instance. So it's just you can resculpt the narrative, like I was talking about making an interrogation into a dungeon with hidden passages that lead to insights you didn't know about, which is the treasure of information that you need to extract. It's all an analogy. It's all a dungeon analogy. The book that I participated in creating, Adventures in Chronomancy, it described these wormholes that went from these time gates that would lead to other locations in time and place, and it was described as basically like corridors, like dungeon corridors. And I made some maps for this that show like these twisting passageways that would curl into and separate from each other, leading off to different times and space. And like that was an example of creating a dungeon out of traversing time, as opposed to traversing a dungeon or a jungle, for instance. And even jungles can be built like with walls, and like the asteroid, like in my Spelljammer book, they're 500-foot squares, and the walls are asteroids, or like little clumps of asteroids. So you can, if your ship is small enough, you can go through them like difficult terrain. But if your ship is too big, you have to go around them. So you start creating these wall structures that larger ships have to navigate around, while the little fighter craft can just go through them. So there's different tiers of challenge inside of the same space, but the plot points are the same. Get out of the asteroid field. Defeat the pirates that are hiding inside of there. These are plot points that get the fighters off of you. Like, these are different challenges that you have while you're traversing that space. The space is allegory. It can be converted into any kind of a story that you want. And the plot points are the encounters that they have along the way. So find a large enough space that meets the size of the heroics your character is capable of, and have those plot points be moments of heroism that are suitable for the tier of power that your characters are wielding. And that way, you can just go through the multiverse. You start off tiny in your town, and as it continues to expand, you eventually find yourself in the Astral Sea, going to the planes of hell, fighting in the Blood War, and you just killed a major demon. And that collapses your campaign. And then you can take that campaign and use that as the seed to build another campaign off of. The campaign that I'm running right now is basically cascaded off of 3 other campaigns before it. It's a 4th generation campaign of consequences to things that they've done in the campaign previously that floated over to the next campaign. 1 to 20, 1 to 20, 1 to 20, and now we're like level 4 right now. So it just keeps cascading through this effect. So the entire campaign is a point of adventure that's led to another campaign point, that led to another campaign point, that now has them in space mining rocks to be able to gather resources, because the planet got detonated and they all had to flee the planet. So now they're all stuck in fucking orbit trying to figure out, can the druids put the planet back together? In the meantime, we need to build some more fucking houses, so let's get to work. Like, that's the kind of stuff that's going on in the campaign right now. And once they figure that out, the next campaign will be like, yeah, we've started to reassemble the planet, and here's some of the things that we're running into. How do you want your characters to be involved in that? Or do you want to leave this place and go delve into astral space on your ships? Leave this place behind, because by the time we come back to it 2 campaigns later, they'll probably have pieced the world back together, and now you can start reasserting yourself. So campaigns are just like adventures, which are just like encounter points inside of an adventure. It just keeps scaling over time. So anyway, yep. So that's it for now. I gotta bail out of here. It's 12:30. I am overdue. I should have been done a half hour ago, but goddamn, I'm happy about the accomplishments that we have for the art. And Rel, this has been a fantastic conversation. I'm really glad to have been able to be a part of this. And yeah, so we'll be back. I'll be back Monday morning to do more of this. I'll be back Monday night to do more Spelljammer ship building. And then Tuesday through Friday in the morning, I'll be here. Tuesday and Friday at lunchtime, we'll be continuing to build martial powers. On Wednesday at lunch, we'll be working on Spelljammer subclasses. And then Saturday next week, I have no idea what I'll be doing. So, hell yeah, man. Well, I love this stuff. I absolutely love all this stuff. It's so much fun to do. So I'm happy I can help pass on what I've learned over the past 20 some odd years to the next generation, as it were. So stick around, ask me anything, anytime. Jump into my Discord if you have any random questions. I'm happy to answer stuff there as well. But I love yammering on screen. So thanks a lot. Anyone else that catches this in the future, hope to see you again. Thanks a lot.